10, 20. Let's just say he made between 10 and 30 million, right? On a low end.
Yep.
JT, 5 things he could have done to never go back here. Even if things didn't go perfect. 5 things he could have done to never go back here. Shoot.
Yep. All right. So one thing that we know is that real estate has created the most millionaires. So not saying he had to get a mansion or anything like that, but getting in my humble opinion, at least a middle class family home. But if I had 10 to 30 million, I would try to pay off a small to medium sized multifamily apartment complex. I'm talking about 8 units or less. He had enough money to do it. Right. So that's one thing that he could have did to conservatively invest in real estate. Now, let's say you got an 8-unit apartment building and the rent is only $1,200-$1,500 a door. Right. Okay. That's still 6 figures a year. It's a long way from 10 to $30 million, but you also not in the projects with your baby sleeping on the floor. So like you could have got some conservative real estate, and in the information age and being a professional basketball player, he has access to people with money. Now, I do get it. It might have been a trust thing. Maybe there's a lot of people that leached off him, or I don't know what happened to his money, really. If it was taxes and leeches and whatever. But conservative real estate investments would have been one thing that he knows about. Everybody has heard about that. I wouldn't try to go buy a mega mansion for $100 million. I wouldn't even try to go get a 100-unit apartment building, but a small like 8-unit or less. Even if there wasn't one for sale, you could have bought some land, right? In a average market, you could have built it from the ground up and still had 6 figures a year guaranteed for the rest of your life, right? Conservative investing in the stock market. So you don't got to know what's going to be the next boom.
Well, I'm gonna pause you real quick, JT. So let's even go back, because he played 2007-ish to 2016-ish. An 8-unit back then, with his first or even second contract, might have been $300,000-$400,000 in a nice part of town.
Yep.
In Brooklyn, where I think the projects that he lives in is, which is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world now. In Brooklyn back then, it definitely between $400,000 and $500,000. Now it would have been worth a smooth $2 to $3 million. And I'm going conservative, really closer to $4 to $5 million. So let's just take that one thing in here.
What would the rent be in Brooklyn? Do you know any idea? Could he get it with $1,200
now?
Or when well, let's say in 2008 when he built it.
12 would have been reasonable, yeah. Okay. 12 would have been reasonable. Now probably more like a 1-bedroom between $2,000 to $2,500 is the going rate.
Okay, so we do 1,200 times 8. That's 9,600. He would have increased the rent over time. He would have been well over $10,000 a month. That's 6 figures a year, right? Now I'm not from New York, but Dre is, so I can. Dre, are there people? It's 6 figures a year. I know New York is one of the places that have a high cost of living. Is 6 figures a year? Can that get you a middle class lifestyle, or are you still about in the projects, even with $10,000 a month in New York?
You're not in the projects. It can get you a lower middle class lifestyle, but if people got stayed off the internet and said, "Hey, look, I'm middle class, you middle class, shorty. I can't retire you now, but give me 5 years. Work your job less than best, and you'll be a stay-home wife forever." If they did that, then they could really be up in 3 to 5 years if they did that.
Oh, yep. All right. So multifamily real estate with a guarantee.
And that one property.
Yep.
Let's just call it $500,000. Now, $3 million.
Yep. Now, out of your $10 million, he might have spent that on a car, a Rolls Royce. I don't know what he had at his peak, right? So if he would have allocated, let's say $500,000, he would have had 6 figures a year for the rest of his life, probably more depending on what he does, right? Let's say that he doesn't have a lot of people that he could trust to tell him about creative investments. So he did the investments that everybody knows about, right? So he did the S&P 500 and he dollar cost averaged it, right? And he put whatever he could afford to put in it, right? Whether it was $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month, as his income fluctuated, right? I would say conservatively, he could have put at least $1 million over his career, right? At least $1 million in the S&P 500.
Okay. And what's S&P 500 for our friends who might not know what that is, JT?
Right. So those, and the way I like to think about it is that these are the safest, biggest 500 companies out right now. Right now, I know safe is relative, because there's always an inherent risk. So it's not like you'll guarantee to always make money overnight, but over a long periods of time. Right. Warren Buffett swears by it. Right. That S&P 500 is a nice conservative group of businesses that you can invest in via the stock market.
Okay, perfect. All right, shoot.
All right, so yep. So I would say conservative dollar cost average in the stock market. He could have put at least $1 million in there. If he did it in 2008, now we're in 2025. He had over a decade in there. I would say he would conservatively have made at least another 6 figures, maybe more, just what his money would have made on top of that as well. Right. Okay. So these are like the unsexy, tried and true things that everybody knows. If you got a 401k plan, your money is being invested in the stock market. If you got a primary residence, even if you don't got no investment property, you still building up equity as you pay down that principal in your home as well. So if he would have did just the safe basic stuff, he would have been lower middle class in New York, according to Dre, just living in Brooklyn, right? Not in the projects, not struggling. Now, beyond that, if he wanted to do stuff that was more creative, right? In the internet age and basketball, in my opinion, being debatably or arguably the most popular sport in African-American men. I know it's back and forth between basketball and football, but I would say basketball is arguably the most popular sport for young African-American men, right? Man, easily basketball camps, right? So, like you said, there was a time that he was compared with being LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, right? It's nothing for this brother to get an AAU team. It's nothing for this brother to do a summer camp or a camp during spring break and have people pay for him to train them on just his basketball acumen, his IQ, right? So that would have been another guaranteed at least $100,000 a year right there. So it's no way this brother shouldn't be making at least $300,000 a year if he invested in real estate conservatively, if he invested in the stock market conservatively, and without him learning any more skills, just leveraging his Instagram, right? Leveraging his, all free YouTube, but just leveraging his brand. I'm sure I could go to YouTube right now, type in his name, put highlights at the end, and see some highlights. If I could do that, he could do that. Yeah. Right? And then download that, drag it over to Fiverr. Hey, man, I want you to do some cinematic, crazy editing. I don't know how to edit this stuff. Edit this and send it back to me so I can post it on my TikTok, so I can post it on my Instagram, right? Now, something that may be considered a little advanced, I don't think that it would be. Look at all of these basketball players and football players now. They got a podcast, right? Very inexpensively. Now I've the more I make money, I invest it into my setup more and more. So I'm not saying that he has to go out and spend like a crazy amount of money, but I would say conservatively, if he went out and just reinvested some money that he made somewhere else, $10,000 or less, he could have a phenomenal setup. I'm talking about a top of the line camera, a great lens, maybe even a couple of camera angles, right? And they have software out now that if he couldn't afford to pay somebody to be the cameraman. So one of the setups I got that I travel with is the Mevo cameras. So Mevo cameras is a 3-camera setup that's on a timer, and you can say every 30 seconds, every minute, I want you to switch the camera angle. So you could have however many you want to buy, but I start off with a set of 3 and you can add to it. So you can have 3 camera angles. You could sit down in a chair, have just a blank wall behind you. You don't need all this fancy awards or whatever. He could if he wanted to, but he could just sit down, right? Have the Mevo cameras running, right? Every 30 seconds to a minute or whatever frequency he likes, have them automatically switching from his main camera to this camera to that camera, talking to the camera and talk about basketball. Who knows basketball better than somebody that was in the NBA, right?
Exactly.
And there's so many highlights out there. He can, when it's not the NBA season, right? Think about what's going on in high school, what's going on in college, what's going on in ESPN, what is his thoughts about the trades. So a podcast, I would say arguably he could make $1 million a year off of a podcast. That's his YouTube channel. That's him being on Apple Music, Spotify. If he distributed across all platforms, pair that with some merch, reaching out to whoever his connects are that he played with, and seeing if he can get a couple of people that'll sit down with him and do an interview. And I would just reach out to past teammates. Hey man, do you mind jumping on Zoom, jumping on this? And here's an avenue that might be not thought of for the average person, right? Everybody is like, if you could get LeBron James to sit down with you, that's an amazing conversation. But what about the people that are in the training department that have been with this organization for a decade or longer, and they've seen everybody, they've seen everything. We don't even know the name of those people. But hey, this person has been part of the athletic training department, helping them with the strength training ever since, they've been in this area, right? So sitting down with them, introducing them to the world, and having them talk about, okay, how does a professional athlete condition? What should a high school kid be doing to prepare their body, to prepare their skills for the college and the NBA level, right? Now, that person ain't going to charge whatever, best player in the world charges for a 30-minute, 1 hour sit down. They might even come out and talk to you for free, depending on your relationship and how respectful you were with them, right? But his podcast alone can be scaled up to $1 million a year. And, for absolutely free, if he was open to it, man, whenever he got out of jail, I would be willing to go up there, consult with him, help him set stuff up, whatever it is. Like, wouldn't charge him a dime. All right, I'll pay my own way, help him set up a podcast studio if he was open to it.
And just for context, JT, what's your net worth?
Right now, low $3 million.
Wow. So
yeah. Over $1 million in real estate. Over $1 million in real estate. The rest is digital. Well, over $1 million in physical real estate. The rest is digital real estate.
And you're doing over $50,000 plus a month on average, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So just for context. So, how much did I say that the building in Brooklyn probably worth now?
Probably 2 million, 2-3 million now. He probably could have got it for 500,000 back in the day.
So I think my final number was between 3 and 4. And here goes one here. This is actually on the market. Is it here or the other side? It's on for 3.7. So I was right on the money there with 3.7, 8 unit in Brooklyn, where he's living back. So I'm trying to find
and if you own that building, Dre, how much money a month you think you would make?
8 units. Let's see.
By today's rent, whatever. Yeah.
All right. If they're 1 bedrooms, I'm gonna say 2,000. If they're 2 bedrooms, 2,400 to 2,600 each.
So that's at least 16 grand a month.
At least from this one thing. So this is why I like these deep dives, because people think they have to do everything. Fam, you just got to do one thing. You just got to hit one. You don't have to hit forever. I know some people who would probably be considered just lazy, right? They don't really like work. They do just enough work. Even if they say, I'm gonna go back to being lazy though after 5 years. I'm gonna go back after the IRA's maxed out, the podcast is doing numbers. I'm able to subsidize my studio. I got 3 or 4 units. I'm gonna go back there. You could do that, but you have to decide when you're gonna go all in on the work. When are you gonna go all in on this stuff? All right, JT, what's next?
Yep. So what we got? 3. We got real estate. We got S&P 500. We got podcasts, right? Partnerships will be number 4. So like we touched on my net worth and how I make over 50 grand a month. The most valuable thing to me is relationships. Anybody that knows me, that I will value a relationship over money. Now we will charge money and we will make money, but the most valuable thing to me is I value people over money, because I know, for example, that a relationship with Dre is worth $1 million, right? Yeah. So if Dre was like, hey, look, man, I'm doing an event in Atlanta. Do you mind coming to speak on social media or whatever topic that you know about that can help the people, right? So, okay, cool. I'm pulling up. I'm speaking, right? Dre don't got to give me nothing. Now, if we partner on something down the line and make money, great. But everything doesn't have to be, man, pay me for this, pay me for that.
And immediate payment right up front.
Yeah, because the relationship is the most valuable thing, right? So even thinking internal, let's say he does somehow or another, come across this content, right? So here's a few ways that we make money via partnerships. So we do editing services for right now for around like 20 different people. So we do editing services for 20 people, right? A new kind of like beta testing thing that we're working out with just one person, but we already got a waiting list of like 50 people, which I ain't no way we saying yes to 50 people, is that we're actually going to start posting for them. So we're going to start posting on short form platforms, starting off with Instagram, later TikTok. The longer form content platforms will be later. And this is reposting viral content in their niche, also leveraging AI, creating AI characters and posting it on their page as well. So a posting service, right? Helping them with their live events, telling them, here's my very first live event. I ain't make no money. I broke even. I didn't lose any money, right? Dre was there. Dre came and killed me. Right? Yeah. So I didn't lose any money. I didn't make any money, but that's $35,000 that we just recycled. I put out, it came right back in. Right. But broke even on that. So my next event was virtual and we turned a profit. My third event was in person. We made 60 grand in a day. Our next event, our goal is to do 6 figures in a day. And we're scaling it up because I know people that do live events and make $1 million in a day. And that's what our plan is to make $1 million a year just off of live events. Not me, though. I want to partner with people, even with people that say, hey, look, well, this event is about so for example, one conversation I had is it's a registered nurse. I think she LPN or something, or RN, whatever the highest nurse is. You basically like a doctor and
nurse practitioner.
Yep. So she invested in having her own telemedicine software that she owns. A black young lady out of Columbia, South Carolina, does millions of dollars a year. Right, her husband owns almost a 7-figure trucking company as well. Got a bunch of contracts with UPS, right? So they want to do an event where they bring people out, specifically nurses, and tell travel nurses and just nurses in general, why don't you start your own telemedicine practice? You don't got to quit your job. She still works with hospitals, but outside of you working with hospitals, why don't you have your own telemedicine practice and we'll teach you how to do the telemedicine business and we own the software that was designed with you in mind, right? Now, I don't know about telemedicine, but I know how to do events. So behind the scenes, I can consult with them and say, hey, look, this is the venue. This is the music. Right. This is that. This is this. Right. Why? Because I've done enough events wrong to figure out how to do them right. And I understand, like some people don't understand the neurology behind music. So if you're strategic, when you do an in-person event, you play music, but you don't play random music. Right. You play music that psychologically puts them in a buying mood. Right. So, so we'll talk about, who is coming to it. All right. Based off of who's coming. This is the playlist because I know you got an offer at the end.